What's it like when there's just too many things happening and your brain basically slows down its functioning because you are so overwhelmed? Hello everyone, my name is Rich Pearson. I'm a professional counsellor and psychotherapist based in Falmouth in Cornwall, and today we are going to be talking about what it's like to be overwhelmed. So being overwhelmed doesn't sound like it's something that would be massively relevant. It just sounds like someone who needs a bit of a break, maybe. It's one of those things you say, oh, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. It's like, you just need to take some time off, you need to take a few things off your plate. And there is that kind of sort of placid being overwhelmed, I suppose, where it's just like, you know what, I just need to stop. The interesting thing is there's a lot of people out there, and I include myself in this as someone who's autistic, neurodivergent, that being overwhelmed can be at times catastrophic. And it's interesting that sometimes people just need to put a word to that feeling that they're experiencing. So throughout the pandemic, a lot of people, I think, suffered from being really overwhelmed by firstly having a large amount of free time. A lot of people were sent home from work. A lot of people couldn't work from home, so they just were on furlough and didn't have much to do. A lot of people then felt overwhelmed by the pressures of their immediate family who they weren't used to spending this much time with, being overwhelmed by the uncertainty of everything, being overwhelmed by the fear of actually catching this disease, which was, it turned out, fatal for a lot of people. So the pandemic is a really good example of being overwhelmed, but it doesn't just stop there in sort of a global crisis. It can be absolutely anything. Now, as I said, I'm neurodiverse. I am someone who is autistic, and there are many other people like me. Being overwhelmed for me can be something as simple as how my shirt feels against my neck or something like that. Honestly, that can overwhelm me with stimulus. And it might sound, to some people, I really can, how that might sound really petty and silly. And like, you're overwhelmed by your shirt. It feels stupid to me too, don't worry. But it's important to understand, especially as one of the next videos I'm going to do is about panic attacks. And a panic attack is a manifestation really of being overwhelmed. At least the ones that I have experienced have felt like that. It's really important, I think, to be aware of this idea of being overwhelmed by things, having too much stimulus coming at you. And I find it a lot of the time when people can't quite put their finger on the word that they're looking for in a sort of counselling environment. They're talking about things like, oh, I've just got so much stuff on at work and I'm trying to be a good boyfriend or girlfriend and I'm not sure what my housing situation is going to be like. So you've got things coming at you from basically every level. And it's easy in that sense to become overwhelmed, but to not realize that that is what is happening to you. So I find being overwhelmed and being able to say to myself, that's what's happening. And to say to other people as well. When I've had discussions with my partner about us moving forwards in life, when I found out that we were pregnant and having our first kid, that was overwhelming. I actually broke down a little bit and cried because I was just like, I don't know. And it was really scary for me because it was like, there was sort of no choice at that point really of doing anything other than having a kid. And I was very much overwhelmed by the pressure of the situation and the responsibilities that went with that. But again, I'm not giving anyone here a sort of cure for being overwhelmed or overstimulated or anything like that. But interestingly, what I have found in the time that I have spent as a therapist and my own time trying to work out my own weird little quirks is that just being able to put a name to something, being able to say, I am overwhelmed, is in itself therapeutic and potentially cathartic. So if you see someone who looks like they are struggling and are taking in too much stuff, maybe sit with them and just say, are you feeling overwhelmed right now? And they might say, yes, that's exactly it. That's what I'm feeling. And I just couldn't put my finger on it, because when you are overwhelmed, searching for words of more than 2 syllables is not really going to be something that your brain function is going to dedicate time to, even though it's something that could really help you just to sort of put a name to that feeling. And that's a large part of what we do in counselling. And again, if you think that's something that's not going to work, there's literally hundreds of years of success stories of it working, of being able to help someone just put a name to an issue, to put a word to a problem, to gain some greater mastery over it by calling it by its name. And so that's a really brief and, again, sporadic kind of explanation of what it feels like for me to be overwhelmed. And this could be helpful to anyone who is a counsellor or a client, or someone who's just a friend and can see that someone is struggling with something and maybe they are feeling a bit overwhelmed. If you like these videos, please feel free to subscribe, and if you'd like to see more of them, please let me know what you'd like me to talk about, and I will see you guys all tomorrow for the next video. Thanks very much.